all, this is Prateek from ISOC Mumbai, and we are organizing this interesting webinar to introduce a lot of people to this wonderful world of DNS. Now, DNS is a very important topic for a lot of internet-related discussions. But unfortunately, people, even with say a background in computer engineering or cyber law, might not have an understanding of what a DNS is. So the agenda of this webinar discussion is to introduce people who are not aware about DNS to the different facets and different perspectives on DNS. In addition to that, we will also try to have, so apart from us asking a few questions as ISOC India Mumbai volunteers to the panelists, we'll also allow the panelists to interact with each other, and then we'll also entertain audience questions. So the way we are planning this session to go around is around, for the first 10-15 minutes, we will, as ISOC India Mumbai volunteers, will have some questions with the panelists. After that, around for 10-20 minutes, we'll allow the panelists to have a discussion within themselves in case they want to ask each other anything or want to clarify anything any further. And then in the last 20 minutes, we'll leave the floor open to the audience. If they have any specific questions, they can come to the panel. This is a very informal discussion, so the tone and tenor of it is very informal. As you might have realized in the morning itself that the way our ISOC link worked, it's a kind of an informal thing. Had this been much more formalized and protocolized, we would have been up on the task at 11. But having said that, regret for the inconvenience caused due to a bit of a technical issue here. But we are all sorted and ready to go. A few things in advance, some instructions in advance before we start this conversation. This conversation is being recorded. At the end of this conversation, within a fortnight or so, ISOC India Mumbai will prepare a report about this conversation. The recording as well as the report, at least the report for sure, will be shared with all ISOC chapters as well as ICANN, APRALO, ALSs. So ALS is an at-large structure. So whatever we are going to discuss today, essentially is going to go to a wider community of people. I'm extremely thankful for all people to attend here. Jolly from ISOC New York. Just to name a few, you have Dr. Govind, you have Jolly, we have Maureen, we have a lot of very interesting people here. Apart, and I cannot mention everyone's name, but then you have Sarfraz here, you have Kapil, everyone. So without taking much more time here, I just want to get into what our discussion is. And before we start our discussion, I just wanted to tell you something about ISOC Mumbai. So one of the mission what ISOC Mumbai has is to make internet relevant for everyone. So to make internet relevant for everyone, essentially, we all need to have a basic sense of awareness with regards to internet related issues. And in pursuit of this mission, we are organizing this webinar. So that's the key theme here. And I'll first start here my conversation with Manmeet. Manmeet, if you can, we'll just have a quick round of introductions. So I'll request each of you to introduce yourself, and then we'll start our discussion. So Manmeet, if you can quickly introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Prateek, for having me today. I am Manmeet Paul Singh, an internet professional from past 22 years. I've been into the domain name industry from last 20 years, and I'm personally a domain name investor. So I am also the sitting vice president of Internet Society Delhi chapter. And that's about it. Thank you, Prateek.
Rodney, if you can quickly introduce yourself to all of us.
Thank you so much, Prateek. First of all, thanks to ISOC for the invitation. I'm honored. I'm a lawyer with about 20 plus years of experience. Along the way, I had a few adventures, all credit and courtesy to our clients. Written a few books and do work in technology law, intellectual property, and help organizations from startups to the Fortune 100.
Thanks, Rodney. An interesting anecdote on this is my introduction. So I'm Prateek here. My introduction to cyber law was through reading Rodney's book on cyber law, which is circulated among law students. So it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Vinay, Yeah, thanks, Rodney. Vinay, can you just quickly introduce?
Yeah, thank you, Pratik, for this invitation. I am working in domain hosting industry since I believe 2002. Created one company, Netlinks, was ICANN accredited registrar, which I sold in 2011. Presently, we are partner with Google and Microsoft and Zoho, and our main focus is to cultivate the internet culture and productivity via internet to the SMEs. So presently, we are also a .in accredited registrar, and main focus of our company is to aware into the small and medium companies. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinay, for that kind introduction. And with this, I want to first ask the first question to Manmeet. Manmeet, for a person with limited exposure to DNS ecosystem, can you let us know as to why do we need a DNS? DNS क्यों चाहिए? And how does DNS work?
So
If you can just throw a bit of light on
the
that.
very easy or the I would say easy to understand definition of DNS, the domain name system, is naming of the computers or services or other resources connected to the internet. Since I work with the domain names day in and day out, I can tell you that the DNS comprises of a lot of services such as SOA, which is start of authority. Then there is IP addresses. Then there is SMTP mail exchangers, and then there are name servers. Then there is PTR, reverse DNS. If I was to summarize all of this, domain name system is sort of a database where we collect all these uh, entries, and then uh, we we group them all together, and then there is domain names, which is the easier version of getting access to all of these entries on the internet. Since I work as I said, since I work day in and day out with the domain names, my understanding of the DNS is that we are given an IP address, which is not an easy thing to memorize. So at the end of the day, IP addresses are translated to domain names, or domain names are actually retargeted or directed to the IP addresses. Domain names are much more easy to memorize, and and are the addresses where we which we use to visit a website.
Manmeet, we have a basic idea of what a DNS is.
Right.
We would request Vinay to throw a bit of light as to who are the different stakeholders in a DNS ecosystem, and what are the interests through which each of these stakeholders participate in the DNS ecosystem. So Vinay, if you can just elaborate a bit on that.
Here, I want to start from the starting of the domain name. So in 1985, first domain name was registered with the name of Symbolics. It was under the US Department. So in 1998, they formed ICANN and given all the rights of the domain registration system to ICANN in 1998. With them, there is a structure is created. Like ICANN is the core body who is maintaining the root zones. Then they appointed the registries, various registries, like VeriSign is today handling for com and net. Then Affilias for .info. So those are the second stakeholder. And then the third is the registrar, which are appointed by ICANN. So the system is these registries can't sell the domain directly. So they are selling the domains through the registrars and to the end users. So this structure is created for the smooth process of the system, as well as any single body is not in the final control of or like doing any harm to the system. So different level of structure is created for like the ICANN is there, then registry body is there, then registrars are there. This is for the GTLDs. And secondly, I tell you about the CCTLD. CCTLD is with the, like, if I talk about our .in registry, .in is given to Government of India, allotted to Government of India in 1989. And pre-2005, for .in domains, we have entire a lot of paperwork. In 2004, by a government order, .in operations are provided to NIXI, National Internet Exchange of India, and it is now easily available to public. So this could be the brief for GTLDs and our .in domains in India.
Pratik, can I add one or two sentences here?
Yes, sir. Please do. Please do.
Yeah. It is rightly said that the prior to 2004 in India in the CCTLD regime .in, we had only one registry, that was CDAC, based out of Mumbai, and there was no distribution mechanism like the CDAC was the registry as well as registrar. And in 2004, what we did when I was handling the ministry in the domain name system, so I saw that what is this happening all over the world. There are so many registrars and so many distributed systems. So I talked to the industry, and I still remember I talked to Bhavin in Mumbai.
Yes.
Bhavin, the handling, registry system, GTLDs. He was a registrar for that. So he told me that, look, the ministry should come out with a robust policy which should make it more proliferated, more open, more distributed, and easy to book the domain system. So then we made the policy, which was out in October 2004, and in January 2005 we relaunched the .in, and that registry today we have, I think, more than 100 registrars all over the world.
125 it is.
125 maybe now.
Yeah.
Where in India as well as abroad. I think more abroad, and 50 are in India, and rest of them are outside India. So the beauty was this. The cost has reduced. Earlier the first level domain were costing 1,500 and second level were costing 750. So we reduced the cost from 500 the first level and the 350 for the second level, and then
now it is further reduced.
Further reduced to 250, and it is up to the stars to make it available. And then globally we were able to do many things. Thank you.
So now the next question is to Rodney. Rodney, if you can just tell us a bit about, what are the issues with respect to DNS ecosystem, and any specific legal or non-legal issue which you would like to discuss.
First, the basics. We must understand, all of us, that with the internet and with internet communications, we are dealing with a medium that was not meant to be regulated, or rather came about much before the law caught up with it. That's one thing. The domain name system, one of two focus areas are security, and we've seen a lot of progress in that regard. The other important issues are to do with property, using someone else's name and trademark, and those who would relate to domain names would know that it's important for us to be familiar with the theoretical part of the law, which is the substantive part, as lawyers would call it. What is the law on a particular point, as well as procedures or apparatus that we can use to enforce the law. And one of the most interesting apparatus is the UDRP, which is now available. Of course, it's been available for the last 20 years across the world, but has also now been made available locally with the CCTLDs all adopting a UDRP-like dispute resolution system. So what should we be aware of? One, that the internet will always move way ahead of the law. The law will catch up. While it is catching up, it will deal with security issues, other legal issues, and intellectual property.
Great, Rodney. Would you like to add anything further on this? As in, if you can just elaborate a bit on probably any of this issue. Say,
Sure.
you can just take an IP issue or something, just as an example or as an anecdote.
Move from where my colleagues, said, the first emphasis had to and has to be on trust. So the whole DNS system came about in response to that. And along with that, we have rules relating to security and how the law looks at security issues. When it came to the ease of registering a domain name, and most of us know who've done it, it takes a matter of minutes, if not seconds. So in response to that, while the registration process is still as simple and smooth, we have possibly an equally simple and smooth dispute resolution system in the UDRP, where a complainant who is a trademark holder approach the dispute resolution process looking to recover, get back a domain name that might be registered in an unauthorized way. However, that would depend on the relative strength of the mark, how original, how unique it is, vis-a-vis common word or a generic mark.
Thank you, Rodney. I think this was very interesting, especially the issue which you pointed out.
Thank you.
And I think now, just to lighten a bit of the mood here, already the mood is lightened up, as you can see in some of the videos, but, coming back here, I just wanted to understand as to, you guys, all three of you have been working in this domain for a period of time. So, we just wanted to know some interesting experiences that you have had as you have worked in this domain. So I'll start first with Manmeet. So Manmeet, if you can just share an interesting anecdote from your professional experience working in this domain. And then, we will, from Manmeet, we'll come to Rodney, and then I'll go to Vinay at the end. So that's the way I plan to go. So Manmeet, if you can just share an anecdote.
Yes. So I have this very, and I share it, it's not a professional experience, but it is a public experience that I would say. And I share it with everyone, almost everyone, because general public does not understand the difference between a domain name and a website. So I try and share it every time I get a chance to speak. So and this is an incident from 2014, and it's not even a far away incident. So I was traveling from Amritsar to Delhi for one of my internet meetings, and I happened to be traveling with a very decorated army officer, a general rank, a brigadier rank in army, and we started off with a discussion on what do you do sort of questions. So I asked him, what does he do? So he introduced himself. He was traveling from Jammu to Amritsar, and from Amritsar to Delhi. Then he asked me, what do I do? I told him that I'm a domain name investor, and I work with the domain names. So he was like, what are domain names? That's where I had to give him an example to make him understand what domain names are. I asked him, what does he use internet? He said yes, he does, and he does it every day. And so I asked him what sort of websites do he visit every day. He said Facebook. He mentioned Google and Gmail. So there were three common or popular household names that he used. So I asked him to access Gmail, what does he do? He said he goes to gmail.com. So I told him that's the gmail.com is your domain name, and the content that you see on that domain name is your website. So I had to make him understand that that is the difference between the domain names and the website. The general audience does not, or general public does not differentiate. All they need, all they want to do is they want to get on the internet, access a particular content, and get on with their daily work or the nitty-gritties of life. But there is a lot more behind the scenes that happens to make this internet work. So um, that's something that's been that's been left in my uh, career, that I always try to share, that there is a difference between the website and the domain names, and you need a domain name to actually access a website. Thank you, Prateek.
Yes, we need a domain name to access a website. I think that's a very interesting way to differentiate between a domain name and website. And there is a common confusion here, Maureen. Just to tell that a lot of people do not know the difference. In fact, a lot of people do not know what a domain name is. So what Manmeet is pointing out is indeed a relevant experience, that a lot of people don't know the difference. And I think he summed it up very beautifully in a line, that you need a domain name, which is an address in a database, to access a website. So that's where he is coming in from. I
Right.
think,
True.
yeah, Manmeet, go ahead.
True, because um, general public or a general internet user who's probably new, or who's even a couple of years uh, veteran on the internet, they need to do, all they want to do is get their work done and get off it. But they don't understand. Me being I'll try to highlight, me being a domain investor as well. Domain names are quite valuable today. If you see, Facebook.com actually paid actually paid $8.5 million for FB.com. Amazon, one of the other largest e-commerce players, paid close to $3.5 million, or maybe a little more, for clothes.com. So general audience does not understand that domain names do have value. It's actually looking at, if we want to go to somebody's house today, we need an address. We just can't, we just can't be like, hey, I live here, come over. You need, hey, I live on D Mall Road, the particular house number, D Mall Road, that's my address. Similarly, to get to a website, you do need an address. It could be Facebook.com, it could be Google.com, it could be Internet Society .org, it could be .com, it could be anything. Thank you, Pratik.
Thanks, Manmeet. We'll next go to Rodney. Rodney, would you like to share any interesting anecdote based on your professional experience? I'm sure you have quite a many, but if you can share at least one for us.
One of the things, and you see, my anecdote is going to be in some ways slightly boring, but if you read between the lines, it's quite interesting. As a lawyer, I've come up interesting cases where non-lawyers or business leaders, with their awareness of the law, have really taken control of opportunities of issues in their industry. So over the last 2 decades, I've had the meeting a number of people. One of the examples that comes is MS Dhoni, the trademark portfolio we handle. And when we met, I was quite surprised with the level of interest and with the level of knowledge and the way he wanted to understand property and other things. We ultimately ended up not only handling his trademark portfolio, but representing him in msdhoni.com. Similarly, with other clients, and I've seen that where individuals and organizations look keenly at the law, and I must that the law and legal processes can be a little boring at first, but after all, they are the rules. And I think just like a footballer or a cricketer needs to know the rules, and even needs to know in today's day and age, even the most vague and obscure rules, it always helps. So cases where I've come across clients, individuals, organizations who have gone into the depth of law and compliance in their particular industry and have been able to leverage that strength and beat competitors just by doing.
Very interesting, Rodney. In fact, with your cricketing rule anecdote, I could remember the England versus New Zealand World Cup final, which happened this year. And there are some very weird rules on the basis of which decision can come in. So an understanding of law is very important here.
True.
Yeah. Thanks, Rodney, for that. Vinay, would you like to share anything? Vinay, would you like to share anything interesting in this regard?
Yeah. So I was going to a lot of SMEs during this short span of career. So basic issue, I feel we as a service provider, we do come on the internet and there is nothing left for you. And he was explaining him you need a website. He was a trader. He was a rice trader. So the person is why I need a website? That is the basic question. Every SME or every business owner, why I need a website? And the most of us always put up a wrong answer there, that if you will not go online, your business will be finished in this much year or in few years. And there I feel, so that same person asked, the web designer said that you will not able to do more business. The trader said, I'm already happy with my business, able to cater my existing client. Then why I will get the more business? What I will? So there, I thought on the things. I said, if you create a website with your communication, okay. So whatever your first ease out that business, with easing out that, this is, I believe, that come instant of my mind, and the trader is immediately hands on for that particular thing, and he starts email IDs, at least with the email IDs. That was the first step. He the going online. Once his existing business is streamlined, second step is creating the website and experience. I really this is what most of the time we miss out, why you need a website. Okay. So my belief is always start with the basic ease of doing business for him, then go to the second step. Pratik.
Thanks, Vinay. I think this is interesting. People need to understand the relevance of a website and the relevance of a DNS before actually using them. And, it cannot always be a pure business purpose here. So I think, somewhere they have to have an intention to use it, and, we have to explain it to them.
Yeah, you have to first start with the ease of existing business, in that how you can utilize the domain name system. Then the second step is website and the other part of it.
Yes. Thanks, Vinay. Also, among the panelists, I'm going to make a bit of an exception here, but, we have Dr. Govind also in the audience, and he has some very interesting exposure working in the government. So, Govind sir, if you are online, can you just come in and, probably share a bit of your interesting experience while working with the government. Any interesting story which you would like all of us to know about?
So in the my career in the ministry, when dealing with the domain names and the Nixie, there are lot many anecdotes which I can say, but one of the important, maybe one or two, there was a domain name booked by an American company which makes trucks and jeeps called .ram. So Rodney will remember that. So what has happened, they booked the domain name .ram in the GTLD space in US, and we sitting in the GAG that point of time had a hell of a challenge because Ram was one of the famous god in our country. So there was a lot of issues. The government asked us to say that please ask .ram to abolish that domain name. And being a US company, you can understand we cannot just ask them to stop that. So we put lot of theories, lot of challenges kind of thing which we will face in our country if someone misuses RAM. Taking RAM as a truck, they may be taking, but anybody can misuse at the second level .ram. So challenge was to how to stop that RAM to not to get into the GTLD space. So we discussed in the GAC, Governmental Advisory Committee, and we talked to the many other countries also, because there may be similar such other names also coming up in other countries which may be objectionable to this may disturb their social infrastructure, and social disturbance may be there if somebody misuses maybe Quran or maybe Allah or something, whatever like that. So we, with great difficulty, we convinced the .ram fellow to make it RAM truck rather than .ram alone, and they agreed to that. And then this whole issue of .ram coming up as a standalone GTLD was not taken up further by US company. That is one of the things which I encountered.
Sir, this is a very interesting example for the non-Indians here. Ram or Ram or Rama is an Indian lord here, and there is a lot of there is a bit of controversy around his name, and which is already working on in offline space in sense of property. And what Dr. Govind has said is an interesting example in the online space. Some controversy around this name, the usage of this name in the online space, and I think this gives a kind of a perspective to all of us that domain names and domain issues are you have to be very careful when you are coming up with these names, as a particular name can be interpreted in multiple manner, and we have to make sure that a balance is struck as to how we name things and how certain kinds of names are promoted over others. So this is a very interesting example which sir has given. Now I want to move to the next session of the panel discussion. We have got a basic idea about why do we need a domain name system, who are the different stakeholders in the domain name system, what are the legal issues associated with domain name systems. We have also understood a bit about each of our panelists' experiences, working in domain name system, right from playing cricket to even understanding Lord Ram here. So now I would request the panelists to, if they have any questions for each other, or if they want to discuss on any topic of their choice, they can, we would like to participate in that. So Manmeet, Vinay and Rodney, should we start with Manmeet first in that case? Manmeet, any questions you have for Rodney or Vinay or anything else you want to add in this discussion?
Thank you, Pratik. I actually have a question to Dr. Govind about .ram. I did read, Govind sir, I did read in one of the articles back in the days that the Chrysler applied for .ram, and it was objected by the Indian government. And a team from Chrysler did flew in from the US to discuss the matter, and they proposed that they will sign agreement with the government of India to not use .ram TLD in an objectionable manner, and they will also not give it out for public use. They will only use it for their own company usage. And if Government of India finds anything objectionable on the string, they will take it down immediately. What was the reaction of the government or the officials at that time to that particular proposal?
So yeah, that's a very good point which Manmeet you made out. In fact, they told us that they will ensure that this name is only used by their company and their products, their jeeps and trucks, not by any outsider. But that kind of guarantee was not given in a exclusive way. That was our problem. Tomorrow, suppose it happens that if somebody say their second level person who uses this product, if somebody else is using that, then what will happen to the .ram? So multiple ways when the .ram was used, even within their own company, within their own organization, if somebody misuses beyond that challenge, they were not coming up with any kind of penalties. We said we will put you some penalty or something like that, but that they were not agreeing to do that. And then ultimately what happened, that the GAC also emphasized that to taking that kind of challenge by a company will not be sufficient. It should be kind of, there were I think certain clause in the GTLD clause at that point of time, which they were not agreeing to, one or two clause, which I just don't recall what were those. And with that they agreed that we will not go for a .ram kind of thing.
Thanks, Dr. Govind. That was a very interesting insight. Manmeet, do you have any specific questions for Vinay or Rodney? Or should I just move on to Vinay or Rodney to figure out if they have any questions at their end?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Govind, on sharing that one with all of us. I think I'll move on to Vinay, because Vinay has a vast experience in the domain name industry, and I worked very closely with Vinay. And of course, Vinay also mentors us on quite a few of web strategies that we work together with. Vinay, would you share something for the new people who've joined us today? Some important pointers that they should keep in mind regarding domain names.
Yeah, Manmeet, few things to the new entrants, not as a domainer, as well as I want to put on few things for the SMEs also. I will start with the SME thing first. Most of us, the basic problem is like putting anything in domain whois, any email ID or anything, especially for the corporates. My suggestion to them is like always put your data accurate in whois. First thing you need to understand, domain is just like your home. It is your home. You don't put your household papers on any random names. You keep your house paper on your name, your family names. Domain is your online home or your online office. You can't put it on any name. So there are few incidents, like one was from yatra.com in 2012. So they put up one email ID which was not working and they missed the renewal intimation and the domain was expired. Yatra.com that time was down for 2 to 3 days. And there are many such incidents. So that is the first basic thing when you are registering into the domain name. Use your accurate details, which if required by the registrar or the registries to verify you, to hand over the domains to you, they can do that. Secondly, for the corporate or SME companies, I always suggest like create an email ID like domainadmin@theirbrand.com and redirect it to at least 4 to 5 people in your organization. So they will not miss out anything. Here I want to share one more incident. In 2009 or something, it was happened with us. So one of my reseller, he having few domain names and he actually passed away. He used to having habit of putting any sort of like domain who is like He was from Rajkot, so the address field just Rajkot, and his name was having the initial like VM, Rajkot, India. That's all. No, mobile number was also not valid, and email ID is again not proper. So he is having like 20, 30 odd domain names. So that time, because I was knowing him personally, so I able to hand over his domain to his family, and they able to have take control, and they sold their asset, and his family got some money out of that. But if I don't know them personally, you can imagine his situation. All those, like, he having few of very good SEO prospective domain name, which are like, you can say, a good valuation, 2 to 3 lakh each of those domain, 2 to 3 lakh rupees. So this is the first basic starting point. I'm telling, starting point. Don't put the wrong whois. It will be problem to you in the future. Second point, here I want to make a lot of the student here appearing, they may be the future designer or developers. They are keeping domain name, their client's domain on their own name. Rodney will put up further more light on that front also. When they are putting domain on their own name, they need to understand if anything wrong happens to that domain, they will be in trouble. Here also I want to share one incident. In 2013 or 14, there was one designer from Mumbai, Thane. He created a website. They did some financial fraud. The domain name was on the designer's name. That particular company did some financial fraud and then ran away. When inquiry initiated from the whois, designer was caught. He just created the website, nothing else, but he was there for 2 months in the jail. So because the financial fraud happened, and he was the last point because domain whois was on his name. So maybe with your student, a lot of designer developers are also coming. So that also I say, always put domain, if it is your client's domain, put it on the client's name. Don't put it on your own name. And I believe Rodney will put a few more things on these two particular topics.
I think at this point, thank you, Vinay. I think this we'll take this discussion further with Rodney sir. But I would also request Rodney sir to share something, if he's at the liberty to share, the case about msdhoni.com. He's presented MS Dhoni's the promoter who's promoted MS Dhoni, the company, and there was a case that came up for msdhoni.com's possession as well. Over to you, Ronnie sir.
Right. First, before I say anything on this point, I do admire Manmeet and Vinay for being absolutely excellent role models, because remember, gentlemen, it is you that the industry looks up to, and all the youngsters. And I have seen you time and time again focusing on honesty, ethics, and compliance. And I think that's a fabulous role model for anyone who's joining.
Thank you.
One of the things is that I think I'll start from where Vinay left off. It's important to be upfront in your dealings. It's important to be transparent, and having the correct details are not only an important compliance issue, like Vinay pointed out, but it's an important intellectual property issue as well. Tomorrow, the reverse could happen. That someone would want to claim a domain name or claim rights from the date of registration of a domain name, but that domain name is registered somewhere else. Coming to msdhoni.com, I think there are a couple of things which stand out here. One is the interest in law and compliance of the concerned person, in this case MS Dhoni himself. And like I said, I was quite surprised with the level of interest and knowledge that he had wanted to acquire. So I think that's a role model for all of us. That here is someone who is an accomplished person, super accomplished in his field, but still wants to acquire knowledge in another domain. The case was interesting because the domain name itself was registered way back in 2005 when MS started his career, and we had to challenge a domain name which had been challenged for close to about 11 or 12 years. So the first thing is that we had to do a analysis of the domain name, who owned it, how many times it was transferred, and we had to present before the panel the fact that the present owner, the present registrant, had only held the domain name for under a year and was busy trying to buy and sell domain names without any a pattern, strategy, or looking at trademarks. And that's another example for all of us of the importance of honest and ethical practice.
Thank you, Rodney sir. Pratik, over to you.
Rodney, anything you want to ask Vinay or Manmeet for that matter? As in, you have definitely talked a lot about, the importance of compliance and ethics in the process. But anything you would like to ask them, or say Dr. Govind or any one of us?
Just before we give the language to Rodney sir, I really want to add this this initiative, or the initiative that our country has taken of developing the universal acceptance
USG. USG.
Would you like to add something to it, because you're part of the
Yeah, it is Universal Acceptance Steering Group actually. So basically, the new ideas like our India itself, we have a lot of local languages, a lot of Hindi people. Presently, like internet is more over like English and those terms. Email system is not working in the proper fashion. So like USG is more getting thing on like universal acceptance of these IDNs and the email system. Everything should like work in the same manner as well as like the English domains are into the net. Like right now, so those things we want to like completely work out with the all the hardware and the software things.
Thanks, Vinay, for that interesting insight on UASG, which essentially means that all domain names and email addresses should be treated equally, irrespective of the language or the scripts in which they come from. And over to you, Rodney. Anything you would like to ask, or to the remaining panelists?
Well, I don't really have any questions for Vinay and Manmeet, except, some observations. A continuation of what I said earlier is that, as seniors, as role models, they have held themselves up to the highest standard. And I think that is something that, every youngster should focus on, the values. To say that values themselves are invaluable is perhaps, the message that, I have for everyone here. And I think that Manmeet or Vinay could talk us through how they've dealt with someone who was conducting themselves unethically, and how they handle that situation.
Rodney, like it is in terms of domain names or
or anything as an anecdote. For youngsters to, sometimes it's very difficult to stand up to people who are your friends or who you are doing business with.
If I tell you about my personal thing, I always try to explain, this world, like if someone really want to offend us, so there is a thin line, like up to a level only you can explain or do something about this. So if the person is not at all like understanding, either you need to ignore it or either go with the legal action process. Here, just I want to give one example. So there was a 70-year-old lawyer from Mumbai. He had some domain registered with one of my reseller, and it was expired, and then someone else took that domain name. So he maybe approached my reseller like, I booked the domain, it should not expire and all. He was a lawyer, he was not able to understand that domain has a limited like renewal period. He is like, I registered it for the lifetime. Okay, I registered it is for lifetime. How it can be expire? So he called me and like started bashing. I will. So like I tried to explain him a lot. Okay, nothing can be done. It is expired. So you are cheater. This, so like there is a level. You can't do anything beyond that. You can't. If someone is doing unethical practices beyond a level, you can't explain them. The only option is to take the proper legal resources. That I believe that is the only option. Like if someone is doing purely unethical things, legal options are the only way thereafter. Amit?
I also just wanted, a bit of your insight. So you have Manmeet, Rodney, and Vinay. You have indirectly referred to this thing, what I'm going to talk about next. But I just want to know some of your views on domain name squatting, for that matter. You have indirectly referred to it in your conversations, but just to tie it a
Yes.
bit back, as to say, what does Manmeet feel about domain name squatting? Why do people do domain name squatting? So Manmeet, if you can speak a bit about why people do it and what you should do to avoid it. Then
I
Vinay,
have
if you can speak, and then Rodney. Manmeet, if you can start.
Sure. Yeah. Pratik, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this particular topic. Me personally, myself being a professional domain investor from last 19 odd years, I have a very interesting or a very a different observation or I would say personal experience as well in this particular aspect. Uh, if if you think a brand name is a household name, let's say for an example, it's Coca-Cola, Coke, Apple, Samsung, be it Nokia back in the days, Microsoft, uh, Yahoo, uh, these sort of brands. If you've registered a domain name with their brand name in it, this is a cyber squatting. This is literally squatting on their hard work or their trademark or their copyrighted terms. Um, but if there is a company, let's say for which is an unknown company somewhere out there in the US or India or South Africa or any other region, which you're not aware of. I don't know what example should I give it right now, but I have a domain called VIRA Group, viragroup.com. So Vira is a generic term used in one of the Arabian countries, Arab world. So there are a lot of companies with this name, and um, someone threatened me from the Arabic world that they have a copyright or a trademark on this particular term, and Vira Group should be with them and not with me. Um, I sent them a detailed email stating that one, I am not aware of their trademark because I live in a country where we do not have a trademark on this particular term. Second, if you are a household name, you should be all over. You should furnish the details on that particular front. And third, um, their trademark should be or their copyright should be valid in my country as well. So if my point of it, sharing this particular example is on cyber squatting is that I am not cyber squatting, or you and or anybody else is not cyber squatting on their mark, because you weren't even aware of that. And of course, the domain name was registered way before their mark came into existence. That so I think Rodney sir will be able to elaborate on this particular example a little further. But what I'm trying to say here is, if is an obvious mark, which is a household name and a popular brand, you literally avoid registering names, domain names with that particular keywords, because you will be literally cyber squatting or squatting on their um, um, rights. But if it's not a household name or something which is a known mark, and you do not, ethically speaking, you do not know about that mark, you are literally okay to register. But of course, again, um, you, you should not be using that mark.
Very interesting perspective, Manmeet. Vinay, can you just give your
Yeah.
take on this issue?
Yeah. Okay. So, like cyber squatting, first, I want to mention here, like domain investing in the corporate world, consider as most of the what I seen is cyber squatting. So, this is domain investment or registering the domain name is not cyber squatting. Uh, yes, there are a lot of people who are registering the domain. So, as Manmeet mentioned, do avoid any brand names. Like I seen recently a lot of people use the word like Dell Delhi Computer Repair Center, or Dell Chennai Repair Center. These are like a common, like you can't take mileage of someone else's brand while creating your own business. It is uh, clear cut cyber squatting, nothing else. Secondly, the other way of the cyber squatting, if some big brand is coming up with something new and you start registering the irrelevant of domain names with combination of their brand name. So these any one should avoid. Yes, sometimes it happens you register some name. This particular incident happened with me only. I don't want to quote the domain name. So there was one very generic name we registered for one of our property project. Okay, so we were not aware. So there was some small company in US having trademark of that. So it was a generic word, like you say home or homes. Okay, homes can be a generic word. So, but it was a trademark. So, oh, when we get to know about, they approach us. So, when we get to know about the particular trademark, so we immediately handed over the domain names to them. Uh, that sort of thing happened. That I believe, because there are a lot of trademark, you can't jump into a few generic things also. So this is what my take is, like cyber squatting by default. If you are registering any brand name with the combinations, and in India, I feel a lot of people are going with the government programs name. That is very common. I have seen a lot of websites in India, particularly coming up like SME registration gov.in, something like that. These you should avoid always. This is not the way of doing any sort of business, not at all. Over to Rodney.
Thank you, Manmeet. Thank you, Vinay. Very interesting, all the points. Uh, Again, I start with the fact that great domainers like Manmeet, when I, as a lay person, look at Manmeet and look at him selling domain names for 6, 7, 8 figures, I say, oh wow, let me jump in and let me, buy a domain name and let me sell it and all of that, without the necessary scholarship, without the necessary hard work. It's like me, to take a rough and crude analogy, buying the latest hot stock without looking at the company's balance sheet, without understanding the management or anything like that. The first is my eagerness. Eagerness and enthusiasm is good, but not when you're jumping in to just buy a domain name just with the objective of selling it somewhere or something like that. Having said this, we must understand the rules. We must understand the basics of trademark law. We must understand also the strength of a relative mark, what are generic words, how it is possible at some times to acquire generic words without infringing on anybody's trademark. And also, if we are ever, respondents in a domain name proceedings, how to handle it, how to withdraw effectively if necessary, how to combat it on various grounds. So I think partially the problem is when enthusiastic people jump in without the necessary scholarship, without the necessary reading, education, and hard work. It's just because Manmeet sold something at a fabulous price, I want to jump in and do the same.
Thanks, Rodney, for that interesting insight. In fact, even we are always keen to ask Manmeet as to how he is able to sell these things at a fabulous figure. But like Coca-Cola, he has always been preserving the secret with himself. Wherein, yeah, he tells it's a lot about practice and insight over a period of time. But I just want to add one very one I would say an alternative perspective to this is, say, as an entrepreneur, if you want to register a company at an MCA, there are a series of guidelines under the new Corporate Law Act which companies have to follow. For example, I cannot set up indiacorporation.com, India Corporation as a company, or in India Private Limited, because one of the laws states that you cannot have this name as a company name. So I'm sure we somewhere we need to have come up with some sort of scholarship or some sort of awareness on how domain name users also should follow certain guidelines with regards to naming. I just wanted to know from any of you, are there any websites which give us some guidelines on domain name system naming, for that matter, or even any other excellent resources on domain name systems, so that in case any one of us wants to go and read or increase our knowledge, where should we go? So I'll first start here with Rodney. I'll just reverse the trend now, because so I'll start here with Rodney, then I'll go to Vinay, and then I'll come to Manmeet.
Yes, Pratik, I think it would be to look at the WIPO website, the World Intellectual Property Organization. There is also registry.in, which is the NICSI website, which handles our .in. So these two are excellent resources for the dispute resolution process. They have all previously decided cases online, free of cost, accessible to everyone. So that these two are excellent legal resources. And then you have a number of most excellent websites. I think that there are lots of people who to handle those kind of websites. Manmeet's website is an excellent resource, and of course, no substitute for events, for interactive sessions with people with experience.
Thanks, Rodney, for that insight. Vinay, anything you would like to suggest, as a good reading or as a set of guidelines which say people who are not introduced into the system can refer to increase their knowledge?
Here I have my own personal blog, so I have 3-4 articles already there, like which domains you should avoid for registering. So that covers the legal perspective as well as the SEO perspective also, like GTLDs and CCTLDs. Like if you are sitting in India, why you should not, if you are targeting Indian market, why should you go for only .in domain names? And apart from that, the basic thing I already mentioned in my earlier things, like what basic compliance you should follow while registering a domain name, like your WHOIS details for SMEs and the corporates. what should be your structure of whois. You have to be ready for anything in your life. Like I mentioned earlier, like one of the domain owner who passed away, like so see, domain is also your asset, just uh, uh, like your home or the other things. uh, I might be like with other people like to discuss, like there should be like one thing, the still we are not into the in particular domain thing, we are not declaring it as an asset. We don't have any particular framework, like uh, the will, you say there is no will for the domain names as such with the people. So these are the few things, like which domains you should avoid. These few articles I have, and definitely in future I will put on few more articles on my website, vny.in. It is vny.in, where I am putting a few such articles, like which sort of domains you should avoid, and the process for the domain registration, the compliance thing.
Thanks, Vinay. And finally, switching over to Manmeet, as to what he thinks can be good resources to to learn a bit about domain name system. And Manmeet, when you answer this question, also if you can throw a bit of light that if someone wants to monetize, someone actually wants to get into domain name trading and domain name auctions, how can one start his journey in this process? How can one learn to participate in these things?
Thank you, Pratik, again for giving me the opportunity to answer this very important question of my life. Uh, why I say this is very important question of my life, because I get asked this question every time. So it goes very well with my speaking session, because uh, uh, I answer this question very often. Uh, Certain very important resources to get started with the domain names or the domain name industry are dnjournal.com, D for Delta, N for Nancy, journal, journal.com. It is a very important and a vital resource because it's been written by Ron Jackson, one of the most celebrated domain name writers, and it's been online from 2005, I believe, 2004 or 5. And then there is namepros.com, N-A-M-E, name, pros, P-R-O-S.com, world's largest domain name forum. Uh, all the knowledge that I've gotten till today from these two particular blogs. Dr. Govind also mentioned Circle ID. Circle ID is pretty new to the domain name industry, but very important as well, because Circle ID talks about the icon discussions, that happen around the domain name industry, and some aspect of the internet industry as well. CircleID.com. Of course, Vinay Bhai's blog, bny.in. He's also shared some of his domain name sales case studies on the blog as well. And last but not the least, um, my site, that is forum.domainx.org. So there's a learn section. We curated a few dozen articles about the domain industry there as well. There are a few others, but I think just to get started, these are the most important ones that I've just shared. Thank you.
Manmeet, you continue to not tell us as to how do we get into domain name auctioning, but I think we are fine with it. So just tell us a bit about your journey as an auctioneer, how it started and other things.
Pratik, domain name selling, I would say, it started back in 2006. But I actually started registering domain names in 2000 when I was studying in Canada. But you see, time gap of 2000 to 2006, that's what I tell everyone. Take your time to read, research about this field that you want to get into. Um, Today, I tell everyone to read for at least 3 to 4 months, because the amount of content or the data that we have on the internet is vast, is huge. Back in the days in 2000, 2006, we did not have that sort of resources or the content available that we have today. So I think 3 to 4 months time of reading and researching is good enough for uh, for someone who wants to get into the domain name industry. Um, and of course, read about the nuances of what domain names actually sell today, and why an end user would pay premium price for a domain name which might be available for $8, $8, uh, uh, which is the hand registration cost of a .com, and a .in, of course, which is available for about 400 rupees. So, my first and foremost suggestion today is that at least read about the field that you want to get into. Once you've read, you've understood what the domain names are, why they're important for an end user or a business, why they want to pay a premium price for a regular domain name, and why they are important. Okay, so how do I go about selling them? It's fairly an experience of about 19 years of domain name industry that helped me register domain names which are, or register or buy domain names which are important, which are or which could be important for a business, a local business, or SME, as Vinay mentioned earlier, that it will help them grow their business online. Not that they will, uh, but they will actually be helpful for them to do business online by one, sending an official emails. Second is making their online presence felt. Third, it will be actually value add for their customers as well, because they'll be able to get a quick information about their business online. So all these points clubbed together make a particular domain name which is an exact match of their business valuable for the business to own. I think the important aspect of this is I shared about clothes.com, which Amazon acquired for about $3.5 million or maybe $4 million. Uh, why did they acquire it? Because they sell products on Amazon, and clothes.com will have a lot of type in traffic. People who are looking for clothes, people are looking for clothes or any information on clothes, or to buy clothes online, they will probably type in clothes.com on in their browser, and they will automatically get to the clothes.com. That's why Amazon felt that since they're selling clothes on Amazon.com, they should have clothes.com. They also have soap.com. They also have plenty of other. Amazon has a service called AWS. They bought AWS.com, Amazon Web Services. So I think that gives you a fair bit of idea that why domain names are important, and why SMBs or other businesses or multinational corporations pay to buy these sort of domain names. And this would give you a fair bit of idea of which sort of domain names you should invest in and start selling. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thanks, Manmeet. I think give a very detailed response as to how we can go about it. And I think now we'll leave the floor open for discussion and some audience questions. So from audience, if anyone has some questions or insights, I think the first question is from Jolly himself. So Jolly, would you like to ask your own question, or should I ask it for you? This is with regards to the ISOC Delhi domain name. We have a lot of people from ISOC Delhi here.
Yes.
Okay.
Jolly,
so Manmeet, you have read that question from Jolly?
Yes, I have. I was waiting to answer that question.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes. So Jolly, we did have a website, but we could not get the domain name from the previous owner because it was the previous owner was unreachable. We could not find. We were actually able to find that person, but we were not able to contact that person. So we had elections at ISOC Delhi in end of January, February this year, and once the office bearers changed, we started working on a new website, a new portal, which is still under the wraps because we're working on the content of the website. Our few office bearers are working with few partners as well on getting the new website up. It will have a new domain name as well because, as I told you, we were not able to acquire. Uh, it's a .in domain name. It will take a UDRP process and not UDRP. I'm sorry, INDRP process, and which will take quite a bit of resources. So we decided that we would do away with the new domain name, which would cost us 400 rupees instead of some 25-30,000 rupees, and a domain name lawyer arbitrator to go that way. I will also like to highlight that we are working on the website, which is a revamped version of the content, and it should be up soon. Thank you.
Uh, yeah, here I want to add like the similar situation I mentioned earlier. Uh, for the larger organization, we should have a structure while we are registering the domain name. So one person left the organization, and this is the excellent case for like to share that thing. Like in any organization, there should be a structure for the domain administrative details. So if new committee forms, they don't have any issue for taking over the domain names. So if it could be like domain admin at ISOC something, and it will is shared by all the 3 4 5 10 members, there will be never any issue. So this is always my suggestion for any larger organization to have one common email ID which is accessible by at least 8 to 10 people of that organization, and that email ID have the ownership of all the common asset, not only the domain name, all the internet assets they have. They could have the that particular email ID in use. Yeah,
Uh,
Pratik.
Thanks, Vinay. In fact, Jolly, just to add to what Manmeet and Vinay said, I can tell you something what we at ISOC India Mumbai are doing, in order to ensure that something like this doesn't happen in future. So what we are essentially doing at ISOC Mumbai is we have firewalls. So, if you look at each of our leaders and the roles they play it very independently and autonomously from each other. So essentially tomorrow, if I'm not going to use the term, but if someone goes rogue or someone is not cooperative, the other people or the other domains or the other departments of ISOC India Mumbai will come in and ensure, that there is no compromise. So, apart from having, using URS and other things, which are always, measures, what we feel is we should have preventive measures in place rather than curative measures. So URS is a curative measure, but as an organization, if you have good organizational practices, firewalls in place to ensure that there is autonomy and independence, these problems can be avoided in future. And one thing with regards to Vinay, your question on ISOC, this is one thing and I'm sure Amrita, Dr. Govind, and Manmeet will be aware of this. But at least ISOC India Mumbai is being hosted by ISOC Netherlands. So ISOC Netherlands has this very interesting. I don't know whether it is still on or now, but 2 or 3 years ago, they would provide us with domain names and website hosting services. And the so there are two perspectives on it. Our data is not our data; it is with ISOC Netherlands. So that was one of the contestants which people raised on us at that point of time. But one thing which we tell them is our ISOC India Mumbai data is also protected directly under the European GDPR laws now. So having said that, ISOC does provide these resources as well. And somewhere if in an organization we have these firewalls in place, we do not need to rely more on the curative measures. Then we can work on the preventive measures as well. Thanks, Dolly. Any other questions to our panelists?
I'm from ISOC, of course, right in the middle of the Pacific, and one of the issues that we had, which I'd like Rodney to address, is that a former board member who set up a Facebook and Twitter account under ISOC has left the board now, and we've had great difficulty trying to get the account. We just want the ISOC sort of like account back. So what is it? Do we have to take legal recourse, or is it an ISOC thing? I mean, it's not really ISOC because we're the ones who set it up. So, what sort of recourse can we take with regards to that kind of thing? Do you think, as a board? Thank you.
Well, there are two aspects. One is that, fortunately for all of us, these social media platforms are very aware of who normally respond to communication to transfer. Now, what could have happened is that if the individual creates the account through their own personal profile, that could take a little longer. But fortunately, I think the issue can be addressed by looking at each one of these platforms' individual policies and addressing the query under that policy. And in the past we have done it. The transfer has been smooth.
Maureen, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, firstly, I am a domainer as well as IT professional working in TCS. Currently in Chennai. I'm basically from Kerala in India. So my question is, like, I could see many reserve names like two-letter .in and other generic names, which was put by the registries. So what are the reason for those reserve names, and what are the criteria for the selection of these reserve names? And another question to Manmeet Bhai. I know he's the one of the fellow alumni of ICANN from India. So I just want to hear his experience attending ICANN conference. Thank you.
Pratik, I think this question, the first question of reserved names, is best suited for Dr. Govind sir, because he has been at the helm of Nixie for quite a while, and he'll be able to share something on the two-letter .ins which have been reserved by Nixie. And I'll share some of the experience about ICANN as well, Sarfraz.
Yeah. This is the question which Salim has asked about the two-letter or three-character domain names. Am I right?
Two-letter
Two character.
Yeah. So reason behind the two-character domain names which we reserved in the .in registry way back in 2004 was, that most of the domain names, the country code domain names are in two character, like .in, .cn, .jp, .us, .au, and all that kind of thing. So that was the, direction I understand from ICANN and other organizations also, to reserve these two-character names so that it doesn't confuse with the country code top-level domains.
Yes, so Sarfraz also asked about my ICANN experience as a fellow.
Yes.
Sarfraz, it is a learning experience, I would say. Why? Because I was completely new to, so my first ICANN fellowship was in 2016 when I was selected for ICANN Hyderabad fellowship. And the whole ICANN ecosystem is quite huge. Dr. Govind sir has been part of the ICANN ecosystem for quite a while now. Earlier, he was with Nixie, so he was representing the GAC. And there are quite a few I see in the participants list who've been to a lot of ICANN meetings as well. So why I say it's a learning experience, because I was completely new to the ICANN ecosystem before 2016. And by being a fellow, I got to learn a lot of abbreviations in the ICANN ecosystem. Uh, Jokes apart, so there are a lot of I would say short forms used in in the ICANN meetings or ICANN discussions, which you have to get used to and learn on your way. Once I started participating or engaging into the ICANN discussions, and after my first fellowship, um, I started participating in a couple of important discussions. The ICANN fellowship helps you to figure out where you belong in the domain name industry. Um, so just to introduce ICANN before I get into the details of the fellowship, ICANN is a non-profit body which oversees the operations of the names and numbers. The name, when I say names, it's domain names, and numbers, I say IP addresses, allocations. So if you want to have a string today, let's say .host, which is already there, but if you want to have that, you need to apply for .host with ICANN, and you cannot just go ahead and apply. You have to apply within a window of it or a time frame when the applications open up. So ICANN oversees that, which was ICANN was under the US government's directive for a long time, but it was given up by the U.S. government in, I think, 2016 sometime. The decision came up around the ICANN Hyderabad meeting, and now it's I would not compare it with the UN body, but it's something similar, and it's operated wholly solely by uh, uh, by the volunteers like you and me. Um, of course, there's a board uh, that discusses everything, and the policies are formalized from the bottom-up rule that you and I share or discuss a uh, policy matter from the ground up, and then it goes to the board for approval. That's how the ICANN ecosystem works. Coming back to the fellowship, I've learned where I actually belong in the ICANN ecosystem. That's what the fellowship has actually given to me. I am now an active part, I would say, sort of active part of GTLD discussions, new GTLD discussions. New GTLDs are new generic top-level domain name strings. The next round from ICANN is about to happen and will happen sometime soon. So they are discussing on making a policies to make the new generic top-level domain names application round robust and foolproof. So we're discussing a lot of matters on that. So uh, that's something I can share with you about the fellowship experience, Surfraz. Thank you, Pratik.
Dr. Govind, if you can say something about ICANN participation, and then we'll move on to Maureen, to talk a bit about Aperallo. So first, Dr. Govind.
Thank you, Pratik. I think my experience for participating in ICANN goes back to 2003, when first time I was deputed from ministry to participate in the GAC meeting which was held in Montreal, in ICANN meeting. So it was all very new to me that point of time. because nobody was knowing what is domain name, what is IP, what is so many other things which were there. But when I reached ICANN, it was surprised to see that it's a big conglomeration of the people working on domain names. And from India, there were hardly one or two people at that point who participated at there. So I thought it's such an important area, and nobody is from India and nobody is from anywhere. So there lied my, inquisitiveness to go further on this domain names, .in registry. So then I started working on the policy aspects, learning from GAC, other countries' experiences like Japan, Australia, Korea, and US, how their registries are developed, what they are doing it. So it was a great learning for me in 2003. And that laid the basis for me to participate subsequently in all the ICANN meetings till today. And that helped me to, go into the ministry's development towards the domain industry, domain registry kind of thing. And it was a great experience to work in the policy space and work with the various, industry people, experts from ICANN to see that how it can be held possible. So that was a great learning, and I would request everyone to see that after going to ICANN, learn in a specific particular trade, what is the specific like GTLD, CCTLD, RSAC, then USG, IDN domain names. So all these things are very new, and presently I think language domain names are a very in thing today for a country like India, which has 22 official languages. And I think great work is going on in the country. I think Manmeet knows, and Dr. Ajay Data, and so many others are, Samiran and all are working. So I think our future lies in the local script, local language script languages, in the domain names as well as in the emails. That is my urge to everyone to go into it in a very full-fledged way.
Govind sir, can you also talk a bit about the India School of Internet Governance in this process? Like you talked a lot about your experiences in ICANN, but if you can just talk a bit about INSIG as a school.
INSIG, India School of Internet Governance, I think it started in 2016. First meeting was held coincided with ICANN meeting in Hyderabad. And then in 17, it was held in the Triple IT, and then it held in the Trivandrum, and then the last year it was held in the Delhi, and this year it is going to be held in Calcutta, with the ISOC, Anupam Agrawal and others are working on this. Basically, the School of Internet Governance is a capacity building and outreaching to the people who are not familiar with the internet governance, which is an important topic in today's internet world. So this artificial intelligence governance, data governance, blockchain governance. So these are the new topics which are what is the School of Internet Governance does is to familiarize the internet leaders, the policy people, to know what is the next step in the internet area. What are the current technology perspective going on? What is the policy space? How the global IT companies are working on it, cybersecurity area, and so many other areas, to familiarize with them in a 2 or 3 days, in a brief, the 3 days workshop, seminar kind of thing, where we invite experts in these areas and then chalk out the program, and panel discussions are there, case studies are there, and role play models are there, which help people to understand in a very interactive way how the internet governance ethos are working and what are the basic points are there.
Thank you, Dr. Govind. I'll just request Maureen, to talk a bit about the Epiralo invitation she has, invited all of us for. So, a lot of participants don't know ICANN. They know a bit about ICANN now because Manmeet and Dr. Govind have given a bit of background. But Maureen, if you can just tell what Epiralo is and what are these meetings about?
I think, Pratik, you have to bring out this a separate session for, say...
Yeah.
I know, like who is registry, who is privacy kind of thing. then there has to be separate, and then INDRP, and then so many other areas. Today it is only DNS, but tomorrow it may be on USG kind of language domain name.
Yes, sir.
Maybe it's for you to decide.
Yes, sir. This is just the start, as we have said. We are just starting off. We want to branch out into other domains. But coming back, Maureen, if you're online, you are unmuted as well, so you can speak, Maureen.
Thank you very much, Pratik. And I know Dr. Govind from a long time ago, and he's an icon. He's an icon within ICANN, and he's been a very valuable mentor to many of us in ICANN. So we have a lot of respect for this very, very fine gentleman. One of the things that was really interesting to hear was that me talking about the fellowship, and I think that it's really great that that the leaders from within the ISOC chapters do take advantage or make an application to have a fellowship, to take advantage of a fellowship within ICANN, to learn more about what it's about, and he's obviously in his line of work. He's in the best place in GNSO. But of course, AP Ralo, and we have, I think we have about 58 ALSs or organisational groups, ISOC chapters, to make up nearly half of that number of our member organisations in the Asia Pacific regional at-large organisation of ICANN. And I see Amrita is on this session as well, and she's become one of our leadership team members within AP Ralo, and she is has been an integral person in our communication network. But AP Ralo represents the end users, the ordinary people who use just the ordinary people who either use the internet. They may not have a domain name. They know how to get to Facebook. They don't really care that it's called facebook.com, but they can use the internet and they want to learn more. So that's why we're part of ICANN. But also we really need to get more people from the ISOC community, sort of like learning more about what ICANN does. And really the DNS and what you're talking about today is really, really important, because that's sort of like the whole purpose of ICANN, because it actually sort of like runs it. And remembering that the DNS system is can be technical, and that's all the sort of like the people like and meet with the registrars, the registries, that whole side of the domain name system, or it can be non-technical, and that's where we get into the whole internet governance and the cybersecurity and the IDNs and then universal access and all that kind of stuff. So whether you're technical or whether you're non-technical, you can still belong to AP Ralo, because that means that you are still an end user. And so we in the at-large community, we do actually talk about a lot of issues, and a lot of the issues that GNSO are currently talking about, and that's to do with the new GTLD round, for example. By the time we get to Montreal in November, they will still be talking about the new GTLD round and whether it will happen. There's, if you are interested in that type of, like the discussions that I've been hearing tonight are really interesting and very much ICANN related. So there's actually a really big connection, and also, ISOC's very much involved in ICANN, and so it's, there is relevance to you being involved in ICANN. So if you want to come to this meeting, the link is there, and we'd love to see you. Thank you, Pratik.
Thank you. Jolly, would you like to speak anything on this matter? So a bit about accessibility, SIG if possible, and then we'll just ask a few more questions and we'll wrap the session up quickly.
Okay. Yes. Well, the Internet Society, as well as chapters, has special interest groups, and on the various things such as blockchain or community networks, and one of them is the accessibility special interest group, which I'm the admin for, and we're a new SIG, and when it comes to participating within ICANN, the way that people traditionally participate in ICANN is as large structures within the regional at large organizations, such as Apralo. And so with the SIGs, which are actually global in nature, they're not geographic, it actually is a kind of it's a thing of how can we actually as a group get involved, and the only thing we can do is regionally. So we decided to pick a region, which is the Asia Pacific region, because our president of our SIG is Mohammed Shabir, who's from Pakistan, and another member of our executive committee is Vanilla Asprink from Australia. So we are actually working on forming an at-large structure to push accessibility issues within the at-large, to ICANN. And this is not only accessibility issues as relates to the web, but also ICANN meetings. And I posted a link if you're interested. I posted a link in the chat where you can apply for more information.
Indeed, Jolly, you represent the accessibility group. Because when we tried to access this call, you helped us to get access to this call. So not only on a wider level, but even at a chapter level, you're doing a great job here. But coming back, I just want to ask if there are any final questions to our three panelists here. Any final questions from anyone? I would just request you to ping it on the chat. I'll unmute you and you can ask a question, or you can type in your question on the chat. Any final questions to anyone?
Yeah, my it's a kind of comments like, this was a wonderful meeting called by Meep and Prateek and and I saw Mumbai chapter and Delhi chapters. I think these are DNS is a right thing to start with for the domain names. But I will say request and suggest next series can be on who is accuracy, who is privacy, IDNs, new GTLDs, and SSAC. So all these topics needs to be there in the subsequent discussions and topics. It will be good for everyone.
That's right, sir. I think very good suggestion, because there are a whole gamut of questions around who is, and then there are a lot more topics to domain name, not just the introduction to domain name system was a perfect way to start with, and then there it breaks down the structure to who is. Then there is as Vinay is a registrar, he could bring in a registrar perspective. Then there is registrants participating as well. They could bring in a registrant perspective. And then, of course, if we research a little further, there will be so many questions or a topic to discuss.
I agree to Dr. Govind. Somehow, like, we need the basic education on the domain names. Also, like, who is accuracy is the biggest issue nowadays. We feel as a registrar, also as a registrant, also the basic compliance and need of the domain, as a lot of people are. It is not only the domain names, it is like your Twitter handle, your Facebook ID, especially for the companies and SMEs. So we should cover in future like all these topics, like how to be compliant with the authorities, as well as like have full control on our digital assets.
I think that's a very valuable suggestion, and we should plan this out in the future.
We should, I think, a monthly or a quarterly something on this would be an awesome one.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So just, I understand, we have gone much beyond time here, but any final questions, any final comments apart from Dr. Govind here?
No, Pratik,
Yes, sir.
it's not a question. I want to like to thank you very much.
Sir.
You are wonderfully organizing this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And to continue, as Manmeet said, we should continue with, with many more such things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We have that in mind. In fact, as all of you are aware, this is just the start. Our last session was with.
I just said, some topics I have written also.
Great. We will have a look at it, and ISOC Delhi and ISOC Mumbai should plan something on this thing, probably over a quarter or something of that sort, which is possible.
Just wanted to add that people who are not aware, Dr. Govind has been very dedicatedly overseeing ISOC Delhi operations for quite a while. It's his mentorship that we've learned from. He's been the past president of the ICANN Delhi as well. And my first meeting with him was way back in 2014. And it has been an amazing experience knowing him from the day I started working with ICANN and then slowly moved into the ISOC as well. Thank you, Dr. Govind, for your learnings over the years that you've shared with us.
No, thank you. Thank you, Manmeet. The only difference was, I was in the government side, you were on the business side.
Now both of you have joined the civil society side with ISOC. So that's good.
Now we are on the same page.
Now we're on the same boat.
So, okay, any other questions? I think, thanks, Maureen. So now I think we are done with this session. Thanks a lot to all of you for attending this session. Thanks, Rodney. Thanks, Vinay. Thanks, Manmeet, for coming in and giving your valuable perspective on this topic. Thank you to others as well, Maureen, Dr. Govind, ISOC India Mumbai chapter leaders, as well as other participants who took out their valuable time to come and attend this session. We will, with this, we will come up with a report on this session, and this report will be shared with you soon. Do stay in touch with us, for future webinars and talks on DNS related stuff. Thank you all. So with this, we'll also especially thank Jolly for the outstanding support which he has given to us in the process. So thank you to all of you, and looking forward for more such interactions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.